this an audition for Pat Kane to maybe pick the Leafs over now the New York Rangers?
I'll throw it right back to you. Can the Leafs make it work? Can they accommodate him? It sounds like a great fantasy thing to have Patrick Kane playing alongside Austin Matthews, arguably the two greatest American players ever playing in Toronto. That's kind of hilarious, and it's a dream scenario. They like each other. They want to play with each other. I don't know if Toronto can make it work though financially.
Yeah, it would take a little bit of jumping through some hoops and retained and third parties and all sorts of stuff. What are you going to say, Kip?
I was just going to say, though, guys, isn't this really what Kyle Davidson, the young general manager for the Chicago Blackhawks, isn't this what he should have been figuring out the last few months on how he could make this work? Did you get any sense at all, Mark, that he was in discussions with the New York Rangers looking for ways to make this work?
Not really, because Patrick Kane hasn't told them yet whether he'll waive his no movement clause. And until he really gives them the green light, there's not. I think he's honestly torn. He and Toews, both of them, neither of them really wants to leave. They're lifelong Blackhawks, but at the same time, they don't really want to stay.
Yeah,
they're not dumb guys. They know that they make $10.5 million, and that's not an easy thing to go 24 hours to your general manager. Say, okay, I'm ready to go now. Trade me. I mean, I'm baffled by, I don't know, the lack of communication between player, agent, general manager.
Well, I think part of it is I don't think they were expecting Tarasenko and Horvat to move, a full month out before the deadline. That's not typically how it goes in the NHL. So I think they thought they had more time. And now that the Tarasenko trade happens and Kane's number one potential choice is off the board, all of a sudden there's some urgency here now. Kane said just yesterday, he said that, that he's been talking with Davidson, but they haven't had a formal sit down to really hash this out. And I think, honestly, it comes down to the player has all the control here, right? Patrick Kane has total control. He could Claude Giroux this thing where he just says, I'm going to this one team or I'm not going anywhere. So he has all that power. And I really, honestly, genuinely think that Patrick Kane isn't sure what he wants to do. Because remember, he could just stay and then go play the market in the summer. But he also doesn't want to screw over the Blackhawks. He said that the other day. He said, I want to do what's right for both sides.
Yeah.
So he's in an awkward position. He wants to do right by the Blackhawks, but he also kind of doesn't want to be in this miserable slog of a rebuild.
Well, the worst case scenario, I think, is the Tavares example where you go, I don't know, maybe don't trade me, and then the fans are upset when it's all over. Maybe their legacy, well, I shouldn't say maybe, their legacy is different than Tavares in that they won cups and they're heroes there, and they maybe have a little bit more luxury there to. Do you get the sense that fans would be upset if they chose to play out the season?
It's interesting because, at the beginning of the year, it felt so inconceivable that either of them could leave. That would be so seismic when it happened. But it's been dragging on so long now at this point that people are just go already. And it's not that they don't like Patrick Kane or they don't want him to stay, but this will he or won't he thing, it's getting. I think it's getting old for everybody. It's probably old for Patrick Kane himself. At some point you have to make a decision, and that this has been talked about. It feels like such an inevitability now that I don't think anyone's going to begrudge him. Patrick Kane is pretty unimpeachable in Chicago among the fan base. He is the greatest Blackhawk that ever lived, probably. And it's, he gets a long leash for a good reason. But at the same time, you're talking about potentially a first-round pick coming back. The Hawks need as many of those as they can get. So, the fans want to get something out of him. They don't want him to leave on his own. But it's not like they're going to turn on him. If he's still here on March 4th, they're not going to boo him. They're going to be glad they get X amount of home games left to cheer him on, and they'll get a proper chance to say farewell. It's not the end of the world if he doesn't go. The Hawks have 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years, including what's probably going to be a top 5 one this year. They're not hurting in that regard. So the fans are not going to turn on Patrick Kane over this.